No wonder walking into your own home can feel mentally exhausting before you've even started your day. You're not just seeing a pile, you're seeing a to-do list or a memory and a decision, all stacked up on top of each other in every single room. Well, have you ever walked into your own home and immediately felt overwhelmed? Not because it's dirty necessarily, not because it's out of control. It's just there's a heaviness about it. Like no matter how much you clean or straighten or organize, the weight, it never really goes away. Today, I want to suggest something that might surprise you. Maybe your house isn't actually the problem. Maybe it's trying to tell you something about the season that you're in, the decisions that you've been avoiding, and the life that you've quietly outgrown. That's where we're headed today. So let's get started. Well, if you've been following along and thinking, I need to go deeper, I need more, I want to invite you to something totally free that I've created. It's called Midlife Clutter Explained and Solved. This is my free Substack where every Tuesday I write a deeper unpacking of the real clutter that women are carrying. Not just the piles on the counter, but the mental load, the emotional backlog, the decision fatigue, the overthinking spirals. We break it down, we name it, we untangle it, and then on Fridays, I share a lighter post to help you reset your perspective before the weekend. Something that's grounding and clarifying and, of course, honest. If you've ever felt like your life looks fine on the outside but feels overloaded underneath, this is for you, and it's completely free. You can read it in 5 minutes or less, or you can sit with it longer if you choose. Just go to midlifeclutterhelp.com and subscribe to Midlife Clutter Explained and Solved. Because clutter isn't just about stuff, it's about capacity. And we're going to talk about it there. Well, hey, friend, welcome back to the conversation. If this is your first time here, hey, I'm Jennifer, and I help midlife women get out of trying just to keep their head above water and get back into the driver's seat of their own lives. Most women are in the back seat, just kind of along for the ride. I say, why not have some say-so in where you're going and which direction you're taking to get there and where you actually land? That's what I'm all about. So today we're talking about something that comes up in almost every coaching conversation that I have, even when the women who I'm talking to think that she's there to talk about something completely different. So these women, she'll mention almost in passing, I just need to get my house in order. I can't think straight until I clean out the closet. I don't even want to have people over anymore. And pretty much every time I say the same thing back to her. Hey, look, this isn't just about the house, right? So I want to be clear about something, though, before we go any further. This isn't going to be a conversation about organizing systems. I'm not going to tell you which bins to buy or how to fold your towels to maximize your space or the stackability or anything else. There are plenty of accounts for that sort of thing. And if that is what genuinely lights you up, that is awesome. But what I want to talk about today is what's actually happening underneath all of the clutter, underneath all of the stuff. Because I think if we only ever treat the symptom, if we only ever treat the stuff, you're going to end up right back in the same spot in 3 months, in 6 months, maybe 1 month, with a new set of bins and the exact same heavy feeling that you're experiencing now. So what we're doing today is we're going deeper, right? And I want to start by telling you about a drawer, not a dramatic drawer, not a hoarder documentary kind of drawer, just a regular kitchen drawer that for about 2 years, I could not open it without immediately wanting to slam it shut. There were dead batteries, there were twisties, there were hair ties, there was a manual or a booklet for some sort of appliance that we didn't even own anymore. Random earrings, rubber bands, pens, a stack of papers of some sort, a collection of, 4 or 5 papers stuck together. These were things that I'm sure I was going to look at some time. But every single day, I opened that drawer, whether it was to get a pair of scissors or a pen, and every single day I felt this tiny and maybe sometimes not so tiny flicker of failure. Like, how am I, a grown woman who runs a business and manages a household, how am I a woman who does those things and can't even manage to deal with a drawer? But here's what I didn't understand back when those conversations were happening. it was never just about the drawer. That drawer was full of decisions that I hadn't made yet. Should I keep this? Do I need this? Is this mine or is it someone else's? And I didn't have the capacity to make even one more decision at any one point. And so every time I opened the drawer, I just closed it every day for years. And then here's the part that's almost funny now. I'm not a disorganized person, not at all. I run a business. I run a family of 10 and keep everything managed there. I build a system for all kinds of women for all kinds of things. I see patterns. I help diagnose symptoms and diagnose the actual problem underneath. I can do a lot of different things. But every day, that drawer essentially beat me down for 2 years, maybe longer. And I couldn't figure out why. Now, I did finally clear that drawer out on some random day for no dramatic reason at all. It took me 4 minutes. 4 minutes to do it. 4 minutes after 2 years, maybe a little bit more, of low-grade dread every time I reached for a pen in that drawer. And when I sat with this whole concept afterward, I realized that the 4 minutes, they were never the problem. The problem was that every item that was in that drawer represented a decision that I wasn't ready to make. The papers, they meant coming to terms with the fact that my kids were growing older, times were changing, memories had passed, moments had passed, they were just memories. I wasn't ready to make all of those realizations yet. The old manual that was there, right? It meant that I spent money on something that we no longer had for whatever reason. The earrings, right? They meant that random other earrings were strewn around the house somewhere, and there were pairs that were never paired again. These were tiny decisions, tiny disappointments, tiny griefs, tiny emotions, but I didn't have anywhere to go with any of them. And so all of those items then, they just sat in the drawer, taking up way more emotional space than 4 minutes worth of stuff ever should. Now, I share this because I think we treat clutter, we treat this stuff like it's a discipline problem. Like if we were just more organized or more disciplined or more together, the piles and the stuff, they simply wouldn't exist. But I've coached hundreds of women through the season of life that we're in right now, the midlife life, right? And that can happen anytime in your 30s, well up into your 60s and beyond. It's a big window. And in working with these women, I can tell you it's almost never, their clutter, their stuff is almost never about discipline. It's almost always about capacity. And it's about decisions that we've been quietly postponing because we just don't have the bandwidth to make them. So let's talk about then what's actually going on when your house feels heavy in this way. When we talk about clutter, we're usually thinking and talking about organization, right? We're talking about storage bins, we're talking about label makers, we're talking about decluttering checklists and a list of questions to ask. But clutter is not just about stuff. It's about stories. Walk through your house and you'll find pieces of all the different versions of yourself. The hobby that you weren't sure you would ever have time for. The business idea that never got off the ground. The clothes that fit 5 years ago. The toys that your kids outgrew but you couldn't quite let go of. The gifts that you felt guilty donating because someone gave them to you. The boxes that you've carried from house to house because you kept telling yourself, I'll go through that someday. Your house is holding memories and expectations and dreams and responsibilities, and sometimes a version of you that no longer exists. Now I think about that drawer again, and it wasn't just batteries and twisties. It was the mom who keeps all of the papers because what if I might need it again someday? It was the woman who's going to fix that appliance eventually. Neither of those things were really true anymore at that moment. But at the same time, I hadn't come to terms with saying goodbye to all of those skeletons in the drawer. That's what clutter actually is most of the time. It's kind of like skeletons. It's oftentimes unfinished goodbyes. Think about your own house for a second, not in a judgmental way, just notice. There's the craft supplies from Pinterest, the Pinterest phase that you went through 4 years ago. There's the workout clothes from the version of you that was training for something before life got loud and messy and things got in the way. There's the someday box in the garage or the closet. You know the one. Someday you'll frame those pictures. Someday you'll finish that scrapbook. Someday you'll go through your grandmother's things properly, like they deserve. None of those things, the fact that they're still sitting in boxes and in closets, none of those things point to a moral failure. It's just proof that you've been busy living while 100 small decisions quietly stacked up behind you. And here's the thing that nobody tells you. You can't organize these unfinished goodbyes. You can put it in a prettier bin. You can label it. You can Marie Kondo the life out of it. But until you actually make peace with what these things represent, these things are going to keep taking up space, no matter how neatly it's stored. I've watched this play out with clients time and time again over the years. A woman will buy the perfect matching bins. She'll spend an entire weekend transforming everything and putting all the things in the pretty bins. And she'll feel great for about a week. And then slowly, the same piles, they start creeping back up. Not because she did the organization part wrong, but because she organized the stuff without ever making the underlying decisions that needed to be made about the stuff. The unfinished goodbye, it just got a nicer container. It didn't ever get finished. That's why this conversation isn't going to be about bins. It's about the decision underneath the bin. Now, here's what makes this season different. You're not managing 5 years of life. You're managing decades of life at this point. Your home has become the archive of your family's stories. There's the school papers and the holiday traditions and the baby clothes and the furniture that you inherited from relatives. There's the things that you've bought. There's the things that you've kept just in case. And if you're like most of the women that I work with, you're also carrying the mental responsibility for all of these things. You know where everything is. You know what everything means. You know what everyone might want someday. This isn't just physical clutter. This is also emotional responsibility. You're the default person for the whole house. Not just the stuff in it, but also the meaning behind the stuff. No wonder walking into your own home can feel mentally exhausting before you've even started your day. You're not just seeing a pile, you're seeing a to-do list or a memory and a decision, all stacked up on top of each other in every single room. Now, I hear this constantly in coaching calls. A woman can tell me that she can't relax in her own living room because she can see the basket of things that need to be dealt with. It's sitting over in the corner. And it's not even that big of a basket, but she knows what's in it. She knows it's her mother-in-law's china that nobody used, but nobody wants to be the one to get rid of it either. She knows it's the kids' art projects that she can't bring herself to throw away, but she doesn't have anywhere to put them either. She knows. She knows all these things. And that knowing is exhausting in a way that's hard to explain to someone who isn't the default person for their home. Because here's what I mean by emotional responsibility. It's not just where is the tape. It's which of these items matter to someone in the family and which ones can I let go of without causing a heartache or an argument. It's holding the entire emotional inventory of a household in your head on top of everything else that you're already holding. Now, none of this is a discipline problem. This is a capacity problem. And you can't organize your way out of a capacity problem. You have to address it at the root. Now, this is exactly why decluttering advice so often falls flat for midlife women. Most of it was written for women with less history, fewer people to consider, and more bandwidth. Just ask if it sparks joy is a lovely question when you're 25 and everything you own fits into your apartment neatly. It's a much harder question when the item in front of you is your late father's toolbox or the baby's clothes from the child who was your last baby or the box of cards that your kids wrote to you over the years that you've never had the heart to open again because you know they'll just make you cry. You don't need a cuter system. You need permission to go slowly. And you need a framework that accounts for the fact that some of these decisions are just genuinely heavy, and they always will be. Now, there's another layer in this too. In midlife, a lot of us are managing our own household clutter and starting to inherit someone else's. Maybe a parent is downsizing. Maybe you've had the conversation about what happens to the family home someday. Maybe boxes have already started showing up in your garage that aren't even yours technically, but somehow you're the one responsible for them now. That's a lot to be holding all at once. Your own unfinished decisions, your kids' outgrown stuff, and now the beginning of a whole other generation of people's belongings landing on your doorstep. No wonder the weight of it feels different than it did in your 20s or your 30s. It's not that you've gotten less capable of managing things. It's that the actual volume of what you're responsible for has multiplied while your time and energy have not. Now, here's the thought that I keep coming back to. Maybe your house isn't asking you to organize better. Maybe it's asking you to decide. Because every object asks a question. Do I still need this? Does this support the life I'm living today? Am I keeping this because it serves me or because I'm avoiding the decision? Sometimes we're not holding on to stuff, we're holding on to guilt or obligation or the hope that one day life will slow down enough for us to become the woman who finally uses it. What if your house isn't full because you're disorganized? What if it's full because you've been postponing hundreds of tiny decisions? Now, I want to be really clear about something here because I don't want you to hear this and spiral into shame, right? This isn't any kind of character flaw. You've been just trying to make it through daily life. You've been making 1,000 decisions a day just to keep everyone fed and the schedule straight and to keep everything and everyone functioning. Of course, the drawer got closed instead of sorted through. You didn't have anything left, but here's the good news. If the problem is decision fatigue, the solution isn't a bigger project, it's actually a smaller one. Now, I want to give you a real example of how this plays out because I think it makes it concrete. One of my clients, I'll call her Amy, she came to me convinced that her whole house needed a total overhaul. She'd watched every home organizing show. She had bought the bins. She had blocked off an entire Saturday to finally start dealing with it. And every single time that Saturday came and went, and she never even opened the garage door, man, can you imagine what she felt like? The problem was that the project was too big to start. Her brain looked at the whole house, and it just shut down before she ever picked up a single item. So we worked on making her ask smaller, 1 drawer or 10 minutes or 1 question. That was it. And what she told me afterwards surprised her more than it surprised me. She said the 10 minutes that she worked, they weren't even really about the drawer. They were the first time in months she'd made a decision just for herself about something that was fully in her control from start to finish. No negotiating with a teenager. No waiting on her husband's opinion. Just her, 1 drawer, and 1 clear yes or no about the stuff in it. That's the part that actually changes things. It's not the tidy drawer. It's remembering that you are still someone who can decide things and follow through on them in a life that mostly asks you to react to everyone else's decisions all day long. Now, Amy told me something else a few weeks later. She said once she had done the drawer, she noticed that she wasn't dreading the kitchen anymore. Not because the kitchen was fully organized, it wasn't, but because she had proven to herself in 1 small contained area that, quote, dealing with it, unquote, didn't have to mean an entire Saturday was gone. It could mean 10 minutes on a random Thursday night. And once she believed that, she started finding those little pockets of 10 minutes more often without me having to help her find them or remind her. That's the compounding effect. And it's there for you too. It's not expecting a transformed house by next week. It's a different relationship with the idea of dealing with it at all. And this is why I don't want you to think about decluttering your whole house. It's because it's overwhelming. And honestly, it's the exact kind of all or nothing thinking that we talk about here that I talk about all the time. You don't need to throw it all out and start over. Instead, I want you to think about just making one decision. Choose one drawer or one shelf or one basket or one box or one bin. Not to clean it, not even to declutter it, but to decide. And as you pick up each item, ask yourself, does this deserve space in my home and in this season of my life? Not because someone on social media says that you should own less, but because every item that stays should support the life you're building, not anchor you to the life that you have already lived. That's a big one, right? Let me say that again. Every item that stays should support the life you're building, not anchor you to the life that you've already lived. Your home doesn't need to be perfect, but it does need to reflect who you are now. And I want to be specific about what this actually looks like because, quote, just decide, quote, unquote, it can feel a little abstract at 10 at night when you're standing in front of a linen closet. So here's how I'd walk you through it if I were with you. Pick your spot. Maybe it's one drawer by your stove. Maybe it's the shelf in your bathroom cabinet. Maybe it's the basket that's been sitting on your dryer for 3 weeks. It doesn't matter which project it is. What matters is that it's small enough to finish in one sitting. Now, once you've got your one small part, one small thing, you're going to pull everything out. Not the whole area, just that one spot, just that one thing. Pull the stuff out and set it in front of you. Then go through it one item at a time and ask the same question every time. Does this deserve space in my home and in this season of my life? Now, if the answer is a clear yes, it can go back there. If the answer is a clear no, it goes in a bag right then. No second guessing. Don't even ask yourself if you're going to sell it or donate it or what you're going to do, right? It's okay. You don't have to know that part. Now, if there's real emotional weight attached to whatever it is that you're picking up, right? Like it's a parent's item or it's a child's keepsake, set it in a separate pile. It's called the not now pile. And you're going to come back to it later on purpose when you have more capacity to make that one decision. That's not deciding. That's not failure. That's actually having the wisdom to know I don't have it in me to make this decision right now. Some decisions deserve their own 10 minutes, not a rushed part of a 10-minute sprint at the end of a long day. Know that the goal isn't zero clutter by Friday, right? The goal is that you are practicing making a decision about your stuff instead of avoiding the decisions. You're building and conditioning your decision-making muscle about stuff. The muscle of deciding instead of postponing. And it's the same muscle that you need everywhere else in your life, in your calendar, in your relationships, in the commitments you keep saying yes to when you mean to say no. And so here's what I want you to do this week. 3 small, doable steps. First, pick one spot, one drawer, one shelf, one basket, one bin, not a room, not a closet, one spot. Second, set a timer for 10 minutes. That's it, just 10 minutes. Third, as you touch each item, ask the one question. Does this belong in the life I'm living now? If yes, it stays. If no, it goes. If you're not sure, that's information too. It might mean that, again, you're just not ready to decide yet, and that's allowed. Just be honest about which one it is. Yes, no, or not now. That's the whole assignment. One spot, 10 minutes, one honest question. And if you finish your 10 minutes and you're on a roll, great. Maybe you want to set the timer again for another 10. But you don't have to. Start small enough that you're actually going to finish. Because finishing is what teaches your brain that decisions don't have to be exhausted. A half-finished clutter sprint teaches you the opposite. It confirms the story that, you know what, this is too much to do. and that you can't keep up, and that you'll never get ahead of it. One finished drawer, now that tells a completely different story. It tells you that you're capable of this, one small piece at a time. If it helps, you can do this at the same time every day or every week. You can do it on a Tuesday, right after dinner, or right before you sit down for the evening. Whatever fits your life. You're not trying to build a new identity as an organized person overnight. You're just proving to yourself each time, and I challenge you to do it Monday through Friday this week. What would it look like if you could prove to yourself 5 separate times this week that you can make a decision and you can follow through on it? What would that look like? Wouldn't that be powerful? This week, don't aim for progress that you can take a picture of, right? We're aiming for decisions. And if you're going to accept the challenge for 5 days, it's 5 decisions. That's it. Because every decision you make, it creates a little bit more breathing room for you, not just in your home, but in your mind and in your heart and in your life. A peaceful home isn't created by having less stuff. It's created by making fewer unconscious decisions. You're not trying to become a minimalist here. You're just becoming someone who leads her home instead of being buried by it. And I want you to notice something. If you do this 5 times this week, notice how it feels different from the times that you've tried to do a full overhaul on your house in a weekend before. Notice that there's no burnout at the end of the 10 minutes. There's no collapsing on the couch completely spent, wondering why you even started. There's just this small, clean sense of, you know what, I did it. And I did what I said I would do, 10 minutes, and I did it. That feeling that you have at the end, that's really the goal here. It's not about the drawer. It's not about the shelf. It's proof. And it's proof 5 times this week that you're someone who can decide and follow through in a season of life that mostly asks you to react and accommodate and hold everything together for everyone else. You get to lead this house, right? Not just manage it, but lead it. And leadership doesn't start with a total renovation. It starts with one honest decision made on purpose in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday. Know that if today's conversation resonated with you, I would love for you to join me in my Break Free from the Emotional Attachment to Your Stuff workshop. Because what we've talked about today isn't really about clutter. It's about learning how to make intentional decisions instead of living on autopilot. Whether it's your calendar or your relationships or your commitments or even your home, the goal isn't to do more. It's to become more intentional about what you allow to take up your space and your time and the best of you. In the workshop, we go a lot deeper than what we have time for here. We'll walk through why certain items feel impossible to let go of, even when you logically know that you don't need them anymore. We'll talk through what to do with the genuinely hard categories, the inherited items, the kids' keepsakes, the thoughts that are tied to all the things and the memories. And you'll leave with a real process that you can use on every single space in your home, not just the one drawer that we talked about today. If you've been stuck in the same cycle of decluttering, feeling better for a week, and then watching it all pile back up, this workshop is for you. I'll drop the link in the notes down below. So here are 4 takeaways for today. Number 1, clutter is rarely a discipline problem. It is a decision problem. The pile isn't proof that you're disorganized. It's proof that you've been postponing choices that you didn't have the capacity to make yet. Takeaway number 2, your home holds more than stuff. It holds unfinished goodbyes. The version of you who needed that item may not exist anymore, and that's not failure. It's just a sign that you haven't said goodbye yet. Takeaway number 3, midlife multiplies the load because you're managing decades, not days. You're not just carrying physical items, you're carrying the meaning and the memory behind every one of them, which is its own kind of invisible labor. Takeaway number 4, freedom starts with one decision, not a total overhaul. You don't need to declutter your whole house this week. You just need one drawer. You need 10 minutes and one honest question. And the breathing room will follow after that. Friend, make sure you check the show notes to come join us in this emotional attachment workshop. It's going to help you make the progress you've probably never been able to make because you've been addressing the wrong problem. You've been dealing with the stuff, but it's time to deal with the emotions and the decisions. And that's what we'll do. So, friend, thanks for joining today. We'll talk again soon.